I've been sewing for 10 years, and these are my top 10 sewing tools that I really wouldn't want to live without. If you're new here, hi, I'm Olga, and I make sewing and knitting content that is usually vintage inspired and sometimes a little bit nerdy. If you're not new here, hi. It's been a while, but I am now back to making long form content. Okay, so tool number one is obviously my fabric scissors. These are the rose gold ones from Milward. I've used these exclusively for about 6 years now. You can tell they're well loved and I use them a lot. They're a really lovely weight, really good quality for the price you're paying, and they come in lots of cute colorways. Tool number two is a good ruler. The one I love using the most is this quilting ruler because it's actually a really good size in my opinion. I find the big pattern drafting rulers are a little bit harder to use, so I think this is a really good compromise. It's acrylic, super sturdy, and because it's a quilting ruler, you actually get all these like helpful grids for angles, which are really good for making bias and stuff like that as well. Pattern drafting rulers, like the really big ones, also sometimes have angles in them. Like they have this kind of like this grid here that shows you what angles are at. They're usually like a specific width, so you know that's like 5 centimeters usually. And while that is very helpful, I do have a big pattern drafting ruler that's like 50 centimeters long, and I do use it sporadically. I find that I reach for this one a lot more because of the size and because it's just easier to maneuver on a desk than like a really big one. And yes, I use my little kitty magnetic needle holder thing as a ruler holder. The only reason I use this is because I cannot, for the life of me, get this suction thing to grip onto my sewing machine. I have tried everywhere. I've tried everything. I cannot get it to grip. I can barely get it to grip the ruler. So I don't know. If you have one of these, how did you get it to grip onto your sewing machine? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, what's next? Okay, so on the subject of rulers, tool number 3 is my seam gauge. This bad boy is basically just a ruler with a sliding adjustable piece in the center, but it's so useful. It's perfect for hems and seam allowances. It's great for button placements, and you can even use it as a point turner. There's really nothing the seam gauge can't do. And the best thing about them is that they're really cheap and very easy to find. No excuse not to have one. I think I paid €1 for this one, so I would highly recommend you get one of these. I don't know what I was doing before I got one of these, but I definitely don't want to go back to not using it. Oh, and don't worry, I will be adding all of the tools that I'm talking about in the description, so you can go and get them if you want to. Some of them will be affiliate links. All of the ones I'm showing you, I bought them with my own money and I would buy them again. But yeah, if you do want to use the affiliate links, it helps me a little bit. The next tool is the most basic of sewing staples, the sewing pin. I keep mine in this, what would you call this? Like a little box? It's not really a box. Container that I made. I have a video on this. I'll link it in the like video thingy-mabobs. But these are not just any old sewing pins. They're quilting pins. Trust me, quilters have some very cool tricks up their sleeves, and we could all learn a little bit from quilters to make our lives easier. So what makes quilting pins special is that they're longer than sewing pins and they have flat heads. I find them so much easier to use, especially when I pin darts and lots of layers. This is one of those weird things where I didn't really think regular pins were bad or uncomfortable to use or had any beef with them whatsoever. But then I got some quilting pins at random. I didn't realize they were quilting pins. I just bought pins I thought were cute. I just found that more and more I would reach for those instead of my regular sewing pins. And then I just started buying quilting pins, and now that's kind of all I use. The next tool is also in the like fabric securing realm, and it is magic clips. I have a mix of different brands. I'll link the ones I have in the description. I have some that are from Prym. I have some that I bought like no label off of Amazon type of thing. But honestly, my experience is that they're all pretty similar. The only thing I think is you have like regular sized magic clips, and then you have like jumbo ones, which are much, much bigger. And I think those are like specific for quilting. Although I'm sure you could use them for sewing if that's something that you thought would be helpful to you. So magic clips are another quilting tool originally. but they're actually quite common now in non-quilting circles, I think. I don't think they replace pins exactly. I think they're handy for different situations. I find magic clips really perfect for thick fabrics, lots of layers. They're also very good for certain sensitive fabrics if you don't want to like puncture the fabric with a pin, because the puncture will stay there. And I also think that they can be an accessible alternative to pins if you struggle using pins for whatever reason. Now, we can't talk about sewing tools without mentioning some type of fabric marker. And I think it's no secret that my favorite fabric marker, oh my God, that was so hard to say, is the Erasable pens. They're also called Frixion pens, although now the Frixion brand has like discontinued them or whatever, I think. Not really sure. But you can get these in so many different places. You can get these in like craft stores. You can get these in fabric and quilting shops. You can also get them now in literally any place that sells like stationery. They're really popular and they're great because they come in tons of different colors. They're very easy to find and they basically just disappear when you iron the fabric. They can leave a mark on some fabrics. So sometimes you will iron it, even though it's not the color of the ink anymore, you can still see it. And I have heard from some people in comments about videos I've made about these pens before that if the fabric gets very cold again, the ink will come back. Honestly, I think that's only a concern if you're not going to wash the garment. In my experience, once you wash the garment, once you wash whatever you are making, this ink is washable and it won't show up anymore. It's not really a deal breaker for me. However, if I am using a fabric that I cannot wash or that I won't wash for whatever reason, then I will tread more carefully with what I'm using as the fabric markers. But honestly, I think for like everyday sewing where you're going to be washing the fabrics, these are great. They're so easy to use. They're very accessible. They're fun. You can use them for other things. So it's not like a fabric marker that you can only use for this. You can use it for like writing on a journal. I just think these are great. They're my favorite. I reach for these the most. That's it. I don't think I've ever talked that much about fabric markers, but next on my list is a good pair of thread snips. These ergonomic ones from Wayken are my favorite. I've had so many of these. I think this is my fourth or fifth. You can use other scissors too for cutting your threads. I just find these are very practical because of their ergonomic kind of shape and kind of keep sewing when you have them like that, and then you just thread snip, keep sewing. You know, I just think they're really practical and I think they're very useful. They come in a lot of cute colors. They're very practical. Whenever I go to the craft or a fabric shop and I see they have a new color, I have to buy it because I think I collect them now. I don't know. They're not meant for cutting fabric or anything big. They're just meant for cutting thread. When you're sewing and embroidering, and that's it. But they are very cool, very useful. Now, I know we all get flashbacks whenever anybody talks about an unpicker or a seam ripper, whatever you want to call it, but I do have to include one on this list, so I do apologize if you're getting flashbacks. But this one from Prym had to be on my list because I love it so much. Honestly, I never thought I'd say those words about a seam ripper. So I actually always thought that all seam rippers were annoying to use and that they were like some kind of torture device that had been invented specifically for people who sew. But now that I've actually tried a good quality one, I can appreciate this tool a lot more. I won't say that I like unpicking now because, you know, I don't, but I definitely do it way more easily, more quickly, and I am not as grumpy while I do it now. Tool number 9 is my trusty iron. When I started sewing, I didn't believe that pressing your seams made a difference. I thought it was like a weird conspiracy. I thought all of the older sewists and people with more experience than me had just fallen for this trap. I was just like, haha, you're a bunch of suckers. But then I actually tried it and it changed the way my garments looked because they stopped looking homemade and actually started looking more polished and professional. It really elevates the way your finished piece will look and makes a world of a difference. So turns out I was the sucker. You can use whatever iron you already have. That's perfect and fine and great. But if you are looking to upgrade or replace your old one, I would recommend one like this with a water tank. They're called steam irons or something like that. If you Google that, you'll find it. And basically they just generate more steam than regular irons, which can be very helpful in a range of different dressmaking scenarios. The other very cool thing about these irons is that you can control the steam. Whereas I feel like regular irons, even if they do have nice steam, you're not really in control of when it comes out. And with these, you can kind of iron without steam, and you can iron with lots of steam or with just a little bit. Like, you have a lot more control over that. And I think that's a really good and kind of underappreciated feature of irons with water tanks. An iron like this just gives you way more flexibility and way more like versatility in what settings you're using. But whatever iron you have is fine and great and will do the job. And it's better that you use that than you don't press your seams. Last but not least, and keeping with the ironing theme, are two for the price of one: the seam roll and the tailor's ham. These are pressing tools to help pressing harder seams like sleeves or pant leg seams for the seam roll, and darts, necklines, and armholes for the tailor's ham. They're basically the same tool, but they come in different shapes for different types of seams. Again, I have no idea how I pressed the darts and sleeves before I got these, but I really don't want to go back. The ones I have are from Prym. My camera ran out of battery. I think Hemline also does a set that's very cute. It's kind of plaid, but like black and red, but you can also make them yourself. Anyway, that is my top 10 sewing tools that I'd really rather not live without. If you're interested in trying any of these out, or, you know, upgrading or replacing the ones you have, I've left links to everything, like I mentioned, in the description, so you can go and check them out if you want to. Let me know what your top 10 is. I would love to find out. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.